What happens when you decide to play the AD game? When the frenzy fades, the lists shrink, and the hype quiets down. When you're left with the relationships you built, the watches you chased, the ones you truly love, and the few you still lust after. What's up YouTube? I'm ChristopherShahin and welcome to my channel. Now today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be doing a collection review. Had a good supporter of the channel reach out to me, said, "Hey Chris, I got a collection of watches. I'd like a collection review. I see that you did one in the past. I'd like a little direction, a little bit of advice. You know, where do I add? What do I subtract? Where do I go from here now, Chris?" So I decided, yeah, let's do a collection review. Let's do a dedicated collection review. Let's go through the watches one by one and, you know, give them a little advice. So if you like this type of content, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, give this video a like, and let's get into Romel's collection. Now, Romel's been a longtime supporter of my channel, so he's always reaching out to me and kind of just talking watches. You know, what do you think of this watch? Look at my newest watch. What do I do to get this watch? You know, just talking shop, basically. And, you know, over the years, I've gotten a chance to kind of see how his collection has evolved. You know, his current lineup right now is a result of patience, precision, and, you know, playing the long game. So let's take a look at where it stands today, how he got here, and where he might go next. Starting from the top left, his most prized piece, the one Romel says he'd grab if his house were on fire. The Audemars Piguet Royal Oak chronograph reference 26331ST in the previous generation Panda configuration. It's 41 millimeters like the current models, but in my opinion, this version is far superior to the chronographs AP is producing today for a few key reasons. First, the contrasting subdials. It's a no-brainer. The fact that AP no longer offers this configuration is a massive miss. Second, the movement. The caliber 2385 was based on the Frederick Piguet 1185. It's proven to be more robust and reliable than the in-house movements AP is using today. And finally, the thickness. These chronos come in at 11 millimeters, while today's 41 millimeter Royal Oak chronograph is 12.4 millimeters thick. So yeah, I absolutely love this piece in Romel's collection. I think it's the perfect high-end luxury steel sports chronograph. Next up is another AP, but sort of a divisive model. You know, even Gerald Jensen himself, when he saw the release of this model, he called it a whale. He was appalled by this model. You know, he said, "You killed my baby." We're talking about the Royal Oak Offshore. Specifically, the model Romel has is the Royal Oak Offshore Forged Carbon Edition, reference 26400AU. This is one of those watches that with its 44 millimeter size, oversized pushers, and bold material choice, definitely feels like a product of its time. It ages itself, but in a way that reflects what consumers were into when it launched back in 2012. Definitely a far cry from the original Genta design Royal Oak. But Romel told me in one of our conversations that this watch was something that he had lusted after for over a decade, something that was always in the back of his mind, something that he always wanted. And it wasn't until 2023 when he got married that he decided to commemorate this marriage with the purchase, with a watch. And what better watch than the one he had lusted after for so long. While this watch is not for everyone, it holds a special place in his heart. And that's what's important. Now, next to that piece, we're starting to venture into the land of the forbidden. It's Hublot and everything that comes with that name. Hublot. To be fair, Hublot's recent reputation is pretty self-inflicted. We're talking overpriced pieces with off-the-shelf movements, flashy and polarizing designs, and a gimmick-heavy approach to limited editions. He bought this watch back in 2013. It was a time when big watches were still in demand. When this Hublot came out, it was the hottest watch. It was the hottest watch on the scene before social media, before there were any watch meetups, before there were any watch blogs, you know, before watches were what they are today. When he breaks this watch out, it still reminds him what it was like to wear the hottest watch, a mix of ceramic and steel. It was cool back then. It was a badass watch back then. Now we're looking at this, over a decade later, and it hasn't aged quite the best. Just like that Offshore, just kind of starting to show its age. But what it is to Rommel is still a reminder of what it was to wear the hottest watch back then. I don't know if he should still keep this watch. We'll maybe revisit that. Next up is an absolute classic in the Rolex catalog. It's the Rolex Submariner date 116613LB, better known as the Bluesy. Now this is the previous generation Bluesy, featuring the 40mm super case, and more notably, it features that flat blue dial. That dial was short-lived, quickly replaced by the sunburst version we still see in today's lineup. I actually quite like the flat blue. It reminds me a lot of the white gold Smurf from that era. The gold text is another charming touch, something Rolex dropped in the current version. But as a lot of you know, my thoughts on the super case have evolved since owning and wearing the 126610LV, so we may recommend to move this piece later on in this video. Plus, Romel didn't have a ton to say about this one, other than the fact that it was a gift from his father. He said it got plenty of wrist time during his college years, but now it feels like a piece he's outgrown. He's already mentioned wanting to move on from it, so that should be an easy one to part with. Next up, we've got an Omega MoonSwatch. I believe it's the Mission to Mercury. Now, Romel likes to wear this watch when he knows he's going to be at work, outside, and a little bit sweaty. But here's the thing. There's a lot better watches in his collection that can do this same thing, that can handle that same situation, scenario in a much more refined and sophisticated way. Listen, MoonSwatches are fine, okay? But that's not why we're here. Now we're on to what is clearly one of Romel's favorite watches. Now, it's not just one watch. It's the GMT Master 2 as a collection. He's got the modern steel trifecta, the 126710 BLRO, BLNR, and the 126720 VTNR. These three watches show just how deep Romel dove into the hobby, and I'll break down how he managed to land all three in a surprisingly short amount of time. Right next to that trifecta is another GMT Master 2, this one a neo-vintage two-tone reference, 16713LN. This GMT is a highly underrated watch in today's market. Supreme comfort, all the same functions as the modern GMTs, and powered by an arguably more reliable, tried and true GMT movement caliber 3185. Now with this neo-vintage GMT, Romel told me that he had inherited this from his late father-in-law. And his late father-in-law actually wore this as his poker watch, which is exactly what Romel wears this watch as today. So it kind of connects them. It's something that he wears and it reminds him of him. And he wears it in the same way that he did. I think that's beautiful. I think that's a beautiful way to connect through watches. But that's when I realized that Romel has much more than just a wristwatch buying problem. He's like a lot of us out there. He's sentimental with these things. He wears them in these ways that really connect them even more further than just wearing a wristwatch. That little extra connection that a lot of us have, that's what makes it so hard to let some of these pieces go. A lot of the times we're not chasing just the watches. We're chasing feelings. And last but not least is a neo-vintage Omega Seamaster 300, the second watch Romel inherited from his late father-in-law. Now sure, the Seamaster 300 played a pivotal role in an entire generation of kids who grew up watching Pierce Brosnan as James Bond. But for Romel, it's even more important than that. He told me this watch gives him a sense of responsibility and helps keep him grounded in what really matters. It's got the classic wave dial, an aluminum bezel, and this one's even got the quartz movement, which honestly, I don't mind at all. At 36mm, it's a smaller size that wears great on most wrists, something timeless and cool, but maybe a bit more suitable for a daily. He's rocking it on an aftermarket strap that he really enjoys. He says it keeps the essence of the old watch while making it more modern, but they don't sponsor me, so no shout out to them. This watch is really great. Along with the neo-vintage GMT Master 2, I think these watches have to be declared as definite keepers in Romel's collection. I've got a few reasons for that. For one, of course, he inherited them. Okay, your late father-in-law left these for you, and that's clearly important to you. Two, they're great watches. These are great classic timepieces. They're honest watches that you can actually wear. You can continue to wear, service them, and pass them along. You can continue that tradition. These have to be definite keepers in the collection. Now that we've seen where Romel's collection stands today, let's take a step back let's get to know the man behind the watches. You know, we've got to understand what sparked his passion, his obsession for wristwatches. What helped build his taste? What was it for Rommel? We've got to understand that to help him build the future of his collection. Now, Rommel says that he was bitten by the watch bug in 2022. But I think it was much sooner. You know, I think 2022 was the moment that Rommel decided to dive deeper into something that he's already comfortable with, something that he wanted to explore more. He talks about wearing wristwatches throughout college, including some gifted by his father, like his Rolex Submariner Hulk, reference 116610LV. He wore that watch for nearly 10 years. But during that period, watches were just pieces of jewelry to him. I think this phase in which he wore watches as pieces of jewelry, you know, his father, you know, gifted him a watch, let him wear his watches, and just wore them as an accessory. I think this was pivotal for Rommel deciding, what does he like? You know, what are you comfortable with on your wrist? What do you prefer wearing? What do you match with? What is your preference? A lot of us don't have that phase anymore. You know, with social media, blogs, and Hodinkee, you know, we're told what to like. So Rommel was really able to just wear watches as accessories, as they used to be. You know, as just a piece of jewelry, as the only piece of men's jewelry that we can really wear. On the surface, it might seem like Rommel only likes hype steel watches, but in reality, he values comfort, reliability, robustness, and perhaps more importantly, a watch that's a great asset. And I'm here to tell you what most YouTubers won't. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. The idea that collectors shouldn't care about value retention is a bit absurd. I don't know about you, but I don't like losing money. Period. Why can't I love a watch that retains its value? It's important to understand this about Rommel so we have a clear picture moving forward and we can help him curate his next piece accordingly. Now, to gauge just how deep that sentimental aspect of watches was for Rommel, I asked him one question. I said, when did watches first catch your attention? We all remember that moment when a watch first caught our attention. Maybe it was the flashiness. Maybe it was someone we admired wearing a watch. Whatever it was, that memory sticks with us. For Rommel, it was his father and his yellow gold Yacht-Master. I wanted to hear more about this watch and how it influenced him. He recalled when his father bought it. He said at times he could feel how self-conscious he was about wearing this flashy yellow gold piece, and that feeling clearly stuck with him. And maybe it explains why Rommel prefers light colored metals. As you can see in his collection, the only piece with any colored precious metal is his two-tone watch. But for the most part, Rommel gravitates towards steel. It's much more understated. But what also stood out to me was how Rommel said seeing his dad wear that solid gold Rolex made him as a kid feel like, okay, my dad made it. And it really cemented the idea of achieving in life through work ethic and devotion. It taught Rommel that if you work hard, you can play hard. And I love that sentiment because watches aren't just accessories. They're reminders of how far you've come, and that should always be celebrated. This Yacht-Master was pivotal, and if I could guess the point of inception for Rommel, it was that watch. It was his dad returning from work, taking it off, and just leaving it on the bedside dresser, like a trophy, gleaming in the afternoon light like some forbidden treasure. He still remembers that. Not the reference number, not the specs, but the feeling. That's the watch that planted the seed. And with all that, finally comes my first watch recommendation. I think Rommel should buy the 40mm Yacht-Master in ever rose gold with that Oyster Flex bracelet. I think this is a great watch to, honor his father, but do it his own way. The Oyster Flex offers comfort and ease of wear, and it's a nice compromise between the brashness of full gold and the subtleness of steel or white gold, a little rose gold, but not too much. All right, let's move on. I want to relate one of Rommel's other interests that he has with his love of watches. You see, Rommel's a big car enthusiast. Over the years, he's built several sports cars focusing on both aesthetics and high horsepower. Most recently, he built an Audi RS3 capable of running 8-second quarter miles. Now he's entertaining the idea of moving up to a Porsche 911 Turbo S or even the top of the line Audi R8. Cars and watches, they seem to be a common interest among us collectors. Maybe it's the connection to the mechanical movement that drive them both, or it's the status symbol they can provide. Either way, they both seem to draw us in. However, Rommel expressed how he has recently made the intentional shift from building cars to collecting more watches, partly due to the fatigue of losing money on car projects, but also from a desire for greater wealth and stability. This evolution reflects his growth and maturity, diving deeper into wristwatches while stepping back from the car scene. And that shift turned him into somewhat of an expert at navigating the AD experience. After months of schmoozing, his 3 modern steel GMTs came through, all within a span of 3 weeks. And now you can connect the dots on just how he strategized to put himself in that position. Romel's he's a crafty guy. But from our latest conversations, unfortunately, Rommel finds himself in a tricky spot. Many of the connections he built with these salespeople have either shifted or disappeared altogether, leaving him uncertain, without that strong advocate he had in his corner before. But I see this as an opportunity. Thanks to the luck and groundwork he's already put in, Rommel can leverage the pieces he's gotten to pursue bigger and more meaningful pieces he'll truly enjoy. Now, Rommel believes that he's in line for a Rolex Daytona 126-500 LN, the modern Panda Daytona. But of course, when they say that you're next in line, we don't really know what that means. And also, everyone knows my take on the new Panda versus the old. I've been pretty clear on which one I prefer. I mean, it's still a great watch, but I want Rommel to think beyond just another steel sports watch. He's a little too comfortable sticking with just steel sports Rolex. It feels like a mental block around wearing something more expensive, or maybe even a safety concern with the colored metals. To that I say, it's time for white gold. My rebuttal points to his AP Royal Oak Chrono. He knows exactly when and where it's appropriate to wear that watch, so a white gold heavyweight Rolex would be perfect. Instead of playing the waiting game, instead of doing all that, because he's already told me that he's gotten a rude awakening that a lot of us have gotten lately. That awakening is when you go in, you ask for the next watch, and they give you the brakes, the skirt. Hold on there, buddy. Hold on. We've gotten you X, Y, and Z over these few years. Look at the watch that you have on your wrist. Slow down, okay? I'd suggest you get something else. Ask for something else, man. So he got that rude awakening. So I'm just suggesting he skip all that. Let's go ahead and take 2 Rolex pieces from his collection that he's not really wearing and turn those into the previous generation 116509 white gold Daytona, specifically with the sunburst blue dial. It's special, it's under the radar, and robust enough for anything. And not to mention, you can buy one today under the retail price of the new 126 white gold Daytona with the blue dial. I believe this is the perfect Daytona for Rommel. Every time we had a conversation about Daytonas, this is the one that always popped in my mind. I never told him this, and I wanted to save it for this video, but that's the one that, when you filter it down into all the Daytonas, and when he tells me what he likes, what he doesn't like, how he doesn't like being too flashy, that's the one that always filtered down, and I'm thinking, that's the one he should get. I think this is your Daytona. I mean, if I were him, take your Bluesy, take the Hublot, get whatever you can for that, the Bluesy and the Hublot. Turn that into a 116509. Maybe you got to pay a little more. You know what? Go ahead and move that behemoth of a Royal Oak Offshore, okay? I know it's sentimental, but listen, man, you got to leave those good memories in the past. You still got the memories. You can have them, okay? You can keep the memories, but get rid of the watch, all right? Move those watches. Get this beautiful white gold Daytona with that blue dial. This watch would instantly become like a crown jewel, right next to your AP Royal Oak Chrono. These two together, come on. Now, the reason I didn't suggest the obvious move, selling a few of those GMTs, maybe keeping one of them, cashing in the profit, and going straight for a top tier piece, is because I actually think Rommel would benefit from building a sort of a sub collection within the bigger collection. Now, collecting isn't the same for everyone. For some collectors, diversity is important. For others, building some sort of a theme, some sort of a sub collection is important. And I believe that Rommel already has a solid one going with his 3 modern GMTs, as well as his neo vintage GMT. So adding an older GMT, like a reference 1675, that could be an awesome way to step into vintage with the watch he clearly loves. There are endless options from 1959 to 1980, with variations in dials, bezels, and of course condition. This could be the next hunt that reignites Romel's passion and deepens his appreciation for the hobby. And if vintage isn't the direction he wants to go, I'd suggest he go in the complete opposite direction and go for a solid white gold GMT with a meteorite dial. Surely a future collectible piece, unique with its meteorite dial and nostalgic to the rare vintage white dial Pan Am GMT Master. Now, I was gonna end the video with one last recommendation. We can clearly see Romel's love for GMT or travel style watches, and Romel had expressed his love for the Patek Philippe 5164A travel time. But as we all know, sports Patek, it's a total pipe dream, okay? It's never gonna happen. That game is 100% not worth playing. If all you want is a Nautilus, an Aquanaut, a sports Patek, don't play their game, okay? Don't play their game. Honestly, they don't even like that those watches are popular. Patek themselves, they hate that people want those watches. When you go in there and you ask for one of those watches, they're doing a little underneath, like behind the mask, they're doing a little vomit noise. Don't even play the game. Sports Patek. That's a topic for another day, all right? The point is, Romel knows that he's gonna have to go gray for this watch. And I had a watch in mind that I wanted to suggest to Romel, something that offered the same functionality, as well as something that could go toe-to-toe, as it too stands in the Holy Trinity. This watch would offer somewhat of a value proposition as opposed to paying the hefty Aquanaut tax. The watch I had in mind was the Vacheron Constantin Overseas Dual Time, reference 7900V. It features a dual time movement plus a striking pop of red on the AM/PM indicator. I thought this is the perfect recommendation to throw out there towards the end of this video. I know Romel wants the travel time. I know he wants that Aquanaut, but get the VC. So as I'm getting ready to shoot this video, Romel, he breaks the news to me. He hits me up and says, "Hey Chris, look what I just bought." Sends me a picture. Wrist shot, Patek Philippe 5164A, brand new, just bought it. What? When did this happen? No consolidation, didn't have to go buy 5 dress watches. No, Romel said, "I want this watch, I'll take it. Here's the money." I mean, damn, okay, fucking baller. We can all just aspire to be that level of ballerism. You know what? I'm glad that he bought this watch. I'm so glad that, my suggestion didn't come before he could have time to buy this watch. Although I think the VC is as good of a watch as the Aquanaut. I still believe that. This is the watch that he wanted, okay? This is the watch that he wanted. So all I've got to say is congratulations, man. The watch looks phenomenal. Can't say anything bad about it. I know how hard you work. Treat yourself. That's, shout out to my brother. He always said that. Treat yourself. Yeah, treat yourself. Shout out to my brother. And I hope you make many memories with it. I hope you travel the world with it. Make sure you go to Patek and try to order every strap color that they'll allow you. If they'll allow you, order them all. Order them all. 2 of each. Get a little khaki green one. Oh wait, I don't think you can get the khaki green anymore. But, get a black, maybe a blue, if they'll let you. See, that's the thing. Why do brands do that? Why don't they just make all the colors? Why do they do that? Why do they make it so hard? So stuffy, man. This is another thing with Patek. They're just stuffy like that, man. They think they're too good for this. They're too good for color. Give me a break. Now, I hope this video captures, the essence of his collection. There's so much more I could talk about with Romel's collection. He has a lot of quirks and, a lot of pet peeves that I really didn't get to mention. Like, one of the ones we talked about was like, he puts the stickers on his clasp. He's a sticker guy. On the clasp, he's like, only on the clasp, Chris. Yeah, so he's got so many things that make him like, a collector. He's a watch enthusiast. He loves these things like I love these things. Drop your suggestions in the comment section below. What do you think Romel should do? Do you think he should add a watch? Do you think he should maybe subtract a watch? You can tell by my emphasis on subtract that I think he should subtract the watches. I'm really in that consolidation mode. I like seeing when people consolidate into these bigger pieces or like into things they really like. It's more pleasing, when you have a 5 or 3 to 5 piece collection and it's real concise. It's really just the stuff you love. I think that's where he should go. But what do you guys think? Let them know in the comment section below. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. We're trying to get to 10,000 subscribers, all right? I'm trying to get my subs up, get the likes up on this video. I think we're at 7,400 subscribers, all right? That's pretty good. I didn't think I'd ever have that many subscribers, honestly. I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm over here with these bright lights over here. What the heck am I doing here? Why do you guys watch this channel? Who watches this? I'm just kidding. I appreciate every single one of you guys that subscribe to my channel. You know, go ahead and share this. Share the channel. Let's get it to 10,000. Let's get it. It makes me want to make more videos. When you guys sub to the channel, when you guys share, when you guys comment, even the haters out there, it makes me want to make more content. All right. So help me help you. All right. I'm getting delirious here. I need to eat something. I haven't eaten in a while. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. What do I say now? Shine out! These lights, man, they're so bright. No wonder I'm always getting comments. Man, this guy must be high. He gotta be on something. Omega's the best. This guy's gotta be high. Lay off the weed, Chris. Bro, I don't smoke anything, all right? It's these lights. Look, I got these big lights here. It's so bright. I'm not high. I don't smoke. It's hot too. I gotta turn the AC down so you don't hear it in the background. It's hot. I got the bright lights. How do I get these watches? How do I get that Porsche, that turbo, the Porsche Turbo S, bro? You should probably just buy the turbo. Forget the watches, dude. Porsche Turbo S? I would probably just stick with my Panda. If I had all those other watches and a Panda, I would just stick with the Panda, turn all those watches in the Porsche. But see, he could probably just do that. He's a baller. He could just do it. He's trying to be responsible. I'm irresponsible as hell. You guys see these watches? I'm not rich. I'm just irresponsible. How's the hair looking? Hopefully I don't look like a lesbian in this. I don't have the big screen. I got the little screen right there. I can't tell. I can't tell if the hair's looking good. I'm trying to grow it out. Where was I? What was I talking about?